ladies and gentlemen. I'm Russ Wood. They used to call me Coach, and during football season they called me a lot of other things. That's a lot nicer than being a coach. Back in 1965, I went to a coach's clinic over in Miami, Ohio University. And one of the speakers, coach, got up and he was talking about how he recruited young men to play football for him. And he said, and it really struck me, it hit me right in the head. Can't you see it? Look how my look goes. But anyway, he said that the things he looked for in an athlete or football player was he wanted him to be agile, mobile, and hostile. Boy, that hit me. I said, now that's where I'm going to start coaching. So I did. In 1973, I left St. Mary's. I came here in '67 St. Mary's. In 1973, I was saying this to the linemen that I wanted those three things: agile, mobile, and hostile. And after we got to putting our pads on and scrimmaging and everything, and when the first scrimmage was over and everything, one of my football players came up to me and said, "Coach, what's that mean? Agile, mobile, and hostile?" I said, "Well, when we get to scrimmage and everything, you'll understand it." And it was never mentioned again. And then in 1975, after our last football game, this same young man came up to me and he said, "Coach," he said, "I got to figure it out." He said, "I know what agile, mobile, and hostile means." And I said, "Well, you ought to know what mobile means, because I said, you missed 2 days, or you were late for practice at least 2 days a week going to the bathroom. You ought to know what that means." Anyway, the man that I'm introducing tonight, he was what you would say, he was a 3-year letterman in football. He made second team All-State in football. He lettered in track and wrestling. Eventually, he was recruited by Ohio State, and there he played and lettered for 3 years. And eventually, after about, I don't know how many years, he finally graduated, I think. Now, he graduated. He was redshirted his first year, and then in 4 years he graduated. And he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, and then he played for Philadelphia Stars. And it gives me great pleasure in bringing up here on stage with me Mr. Scott Burris. Scott had 5 bowl rings. Is that right, Scott?
Something like that.
I tried to buy one, he wouldn't sell it to me.
That's all enough for that, too.
The only thing he ever knew me by was, "Hey, Coach." That's all. I don't think he knows my name today.
told me he was going to talk for a long time. Where'd you go? There you are. You forgot a lot, I can tell. This is a wonderful facility. I stepped in and I thought, oh my gosh, it really is. And coming back, it's very nice. But I'll tell you, when Coach Sackler called me and told me about this, I thought, that's great. I will not accept this for myself because I realize that many people have put a lot of effort and time into me through the years. And Coach, I'm not sure, why am I getting this? Because the last trophy I got was a golf trophy. The only sport I play anymore, so I do want to publicize the Hells Bells Classic. We play it every July 4th. And I did win a trophy. Last trophy I won. But, so I'm not sure if this was for golf or what it was for. But anyway. Football. I remember in the 5th grade we come up with a Biddy League football team. I was at Ordnance, and our coach was Coach Boardman. I don't even know where Coach Boardman is anymore. Does anybody have any idea? I don't know. But here I'm in the 5th grade, and Coach Boardman, I think Coach Walmsley, and we had a wonderful time. They gave us helmets, and I promptly went home and got my mom's kind of paint kit. I painted ram horns on my helmet. I don't know how that turned out, but I liked it. Somehow my dad worked it out where my brother Todd could play in the 4th grade. He was the only 4th grader on the team. And the only thing I really remember from Biddy League football was that Todd intercepted a pass one time. Todd, you remember that? Yeah, it was a big time. I liked it. Coach Boardman and Coach Walmsley, what possesses somebody to come and coach 5th and 6th grade kids, I don't understand, but they did, and I appreciate that from them. 7th grade, in junior high school, Coach Larry Markham, what an impact he made in my life. And I know he made an impact in my teammates' lives, and many people after us, and probably before us as well. I don't know where he coached before. But Coach Markham was intense. Helping Coach Markham was Coach Page. And then this guy kept showing up. Pete Young kept showing up. And Pete, is that you back there? Is Pete Young here today? No? Okay. But those are people that put time and effort into us. It was, like I say, Coach Markham was very intense. He had, after practice, he would line us up and we would run sprints. And Coach liked to run till he got tired. And there's this one kid on the team, Jimmy Davis. And what nobody knew was that every day after practice, I would ride home in my dad's truck. He was at every practice. He said, Scott, what you got that Jimmy Davis running you for? I said, dang, man, Jimmy's fast. And he's outrunning me. So I said, well, I'll get away from Jimmy. So I got over on the other side of the sprint line. You can still tell Jimmy would beat me. So I decided the best way I could do was get right up close to Jimmy. As soon as we took off, I would run into Jimmy and knock him off stride. That way it looked like I would win. So, Jimmy Davis. And then there's this other kid. They had me tailback, Coach. I don't know why I didn't play tailback for the rest of the time, but 7th grade I was a tailback. And during practice I would run through the line, and there was this little kid. He weighed about 50 pounds, I think. In 7th grade, I weighed 170 pounds. And he would go low, and he'd hit me right in the ankles and knock me down. That truck ride home, my dad goes, run that kid over! That Fisher kid, don't let him hit you. Next practice, he comes hitting, I jump over him. I got him. He reaches up, hits me on my foot. Boom, down I go. Right home. Scott, I told you, run that damn Fisher kid over. I've been trying to run him over for years now. We're playing golf tomorrow. I hope I can run him over tomorrow. Anyway, into high school, Coach Ware, Coach Wood, and that is true. Coach Wood did come up. I thought you come up with that saying, Coach. I'm surprised that you found out somewhere else. Agile, mobile, and hostile. And I thought he was talking to me. He always had the firstest with the mostest. That stuck in my head too. By the time I'm a junior in high school, I go to welding class. Go down to the vocational center, and it's over here somewhere. And I'm in welding class the first day. Mr. I think it was Brandon was teaching the class, and all of a sudden, Coach Ware's blazer pulls up. And he gets out and he's smoking that Benson and Hedges cigarette. He goes, only in his voice, Burris, get in the damn truck. Okay. I get in the truck and he goes, you can't take welding. You're going to play football, boy. Get in the truck. So Coach Ware pulls me out of welding class, and I end up in college prep class. But some other people, when Coach Safford came aboard, he brought Coach Markham down with the high school team. He brought Coach Slater. Coach, where did you find Slater?
He's in Miami.
Miami, okay. Coach Slater, what he taught me on the defensive line, really it took me all the way through every level of football I played. The things that I learned from him correlated right into college, no problems, same techniques and things, professional. Everything that he taught me, I mean, it was of great use. And I'm really thankful for Coach Slater. Other people, Coach Rawson, it's good to see you back here. Some of the stories I could tell and go on about, but I won't. One day I get some kids come and tell me, Woody Hayes is here to see you. I said, he is? I knew he was coming because he was coming to dinner, to the house, but I didn't know he was coming to school. But he was at school all day, and he ends up at wrestling practice. And usually in wrestling practice, it wasn't my thing. I was just there to have fun and work, and really there was nobody really to wrestle me. So Charlie Perry and I usually just wrestled a little bit, and I took it easy on him, and But when Woody Hayes was there, I was crushing everybody. And there's that blasted Fisher kid again. Standing there, Coach Hayes, he usually loads. He never works this hard. I'm going to kill that Fisher kid. Should have done it a long time ago. But anyway, a lot of people put time and effort into me, but especially my parents. My mother's here, she's back there. My mom and dad sacrificed a lot for me, put time and effort into me. I can't remember never not watching football with my dad on a college or a Sunday afternoon. It's like he would drill it into me, and I loved it too, and it just carried over. And so that's who I'll accept this for, is for the coaches and the people in this community that put time and effort into me, my teammates, wonderful time with. Sports were great for me, for my teammates, and for my parents, my mom and dad. So that's who I accept this for. And I appreciate this, but I realize that it's not me. It's the relationships that I've had with people and the time and effort that coaches and people put into me. And for that, I do thank you. So.
Been doing this for 5 years. I don't know how many people I've gotten to introduce, but it's been quite a few. I don't know what it is, but there aren't a lot of people who want to stand up here and read this stuff. I can't figure it out. But the next person that I'm going to introduce, unfortunately, was unable to attend tonight. He's hoping to be here tomorrow night for the game. But I was fortunate enough to play with Clayton. My senior year, he was a sophomore. Got to see a little bit of him. Unfortunately, in practice, the only thing I saw of him was his back, because Greg was pretty quick even when he was a sophomore. He graduated in 1971. He played football, track, and baseball, 3-year letter winner in football, and was the first 1,000-yard rusher that Point Pleasant High School has ever had. He was named honorable mention All-State both his junior and senior seasons. Anchor on the track team for several relays, ran the 100 and 200, in which he set school records. And he also participated in the long jump. In baseball, he led the team in home runs, stolen bases, and on-base percentage his senior season. Greg was an amazing athlete, and I consider him a good friend today. I think Rick Simpkins is going to come up and accept for Greg. Oh, wrong Rick, I'm sorry. How about you?
Hey, Silva. Before I get to Greg, I coached girls basketball here for several years, junior high and high school. And when Joey Silva was a senior, he had bought me a shirt. On the back of the shirt, it said salt and pepper. Today, it's a whole lot more salt than what it is pepper. So it's nice seeing Joe here. For those of you familiar with Facebook, people like Mrs. Rawson and I, the older generation, get on Facebook and meet up with some of our former classmates or friends we haven't seen for a long time. I was asked to be a friend with Greg Clayton. I thought, it's got to be the same Greg Clayton. This was a couple of years ago. And we Facebooked quite a bit, and once he had heard about, that we were doing this Hall of Fame thing, and finally this past year, as you know, he was voted in as a member of the Point Pleasant High School Hall of Fame. And it was nice for me to be able to Facebook him and tell him I did not have his telephone number, still don't have his phone number, but he did send this today, and I'm really hoping he would be here because he was planning on coming today. And I think as you hear the first part of this, I think that it must be some type of illness. So keep Greg in your prayers. So we'll go ahead and read what Greg sent to me today at 3:25 a.m. It says, "Dear Hall of Fame members and guests, please forgive such short notice, but I had hopes my circumstances would improve to make my attendance possible. Due to circumstances beyond my control, that makes this note necessary. It is with my deepest regret to inform you that I will not be able to attend the Hall of Fame ceremony, but I still have hopes to attend the football game Friday night. When I learned of the Hall of Fame and its progress, it made me rejoice. It is nice to have an athletic foundation, a history of our athletics from the past, for the athletes in the present to know what a rich tradition they belong to, and for those future Point Pleasant Big Blacks to come. As a youngster, I wanted to be a Point Pleasant High School Big Black. All the youngsters in my neighborhood wanted to be part of the Big Blacks. We tried to become team participants or even become a Big Blacks football player. An old buddy of mine, Kenton Sheeline, who's also a member of this Football Hall of Fame, and a group of others were chased out of the park by the city police, often for playing football on the grass of the park. Yet, that without saying, the goal was to play football and become a Point Pleasant Big Black. Now, I can say my mission has been accomplished. During my years of athletics at Point Pleasant High School, I made lifelong friendships, competed with and against great athletes in several sports throughout West Virginia, as well as learned many life lessons. I was fortunate to participate with a group of young men who set the standard. We raised the bar. We wrote football history, and that, he didn't put this in there, but he was one of the members of the 1969/70 team who went undefeated. And as Glenn said, he was the first 1,000-yard rusher for Point Pleasant High School. It says, I am sure there will be other athletes from those years inducted into future Hall of Fame. From all professional recognitions, athletic accomplishments, community acknowledgments, and scholastic achievements, this induction to the Point Pleasant High School Hall of Fame is the one that touches my heart the most. It is truly an honor to say that I stand beside such an elite group of athletes. Also, I would like to thank the committee for their dedication to the event and the purpose for this night. Thank you also to all my past teammates and coaches and friends who have meant a lot over the years. Lastly, I would like to thank my parents for putting up with the aches and pains and cuts and doctor bills. Sincerely, Greg Clayton. So hopefully he'll be here tomorrow night.
I want to apologize to you first because I've got a new set of teeth in just the last couple of days. Thank God for Coach Wood, because him and Troy Cribb won't be able to sit down twos and make fun of me all day long. I am honored to introduce this next gentleman. I first met him when I graduated from college in 1971-72, and I came back to Point Pleasant, and as soon as I got back, they asked me to coach a baseball team in the Pony League down in Harmon. So I did, and little did I know who the athletes were, but it turned out that year we went 16-1, and several of these gentlemen are here tonight. But the person that I'm introducing, him and his brother was on the team. And you notice I said on the team, because usually you put your worst players in Pony League in right field. So I had two brothers, and we had more than that on the team, brothers. But the two brothers were not very good ball players, but they had to play. So I put them in right field. And later on, he reminded me, he said, Coach, remember, I was probably the best hitting player in the league. Well, I didn't know that because he didn't get to play very much. So that year, I had Jimmy Tatterson, I had Mike Burgess. It just went on and on. And athletes, I had both Reardon boys. But we won 16 baseball games, lost one. I also had a gentleman who's here tonight that I turned into a pitcher, or at least let him start to be a pitcher, Ron Durst. Now Ron take a stretch. He couldn't pitch from it. So anybody got on base, they were going to steal, because Ron could not pitch from a stretch. All he could do was throw that fastball. But during the season, he got hurt. Cut his leg, and I don't know how many stitches he had, but he was out for a long time. But this is a group that I remembered well. And then the next year when I started teaching up here at Point Pleasant Junior High, these kids were in 8th grade. Coach Safford ended up having them in 75, playing for him football, and they were a real good football team. I think they just lost Parkersburg Big Reds by 1 point, Coach. Oh, 6-0. But anyway, this gentleman I'm going to introduce, all I'm going to do is tell you 2 stories. I could tell you 1,000 of them. But Coach Wood would say they'd be a lot. So I wouldn't tell you that many of them. But this gentleman got out of college and he stayed in Preston County, I guess, for a little bit. So he came down here to coach. And I was fortunate to have him on my, as part of one of my assistants. And let me tell you, he's crazy. He is absolutely crazy. And he would coach, and he would joke, goof off, just anything you wanted. But we became real good buddies during those years. And he'd say, Coach, come on out to my house. I said, what for? He said, I live on a farm out there, and I want to let you enjoy life. So I take my little son, I think he was about 5 years old, and we got to Jack's farm. I said, now what are you going to do? He said, you're going to ride that horse right there. I said, I've never been on a horse in my life. And so he put me on one and put my son on another one. Well, when he put my son on it, that's when I should have been on, because he just moved very slow. So Jack puts me on this big horse. We go trotting through the field. All of a sudden, that horse just takes off. And I'm yelling, help me, because I didn't know what to do. And Jack laughed for 3 or 4 days at school after he got back. But the gentleman I'm going to introduce to you tonight is Coach Jack Cullen. Jack is entering the Hall of Fame this year, not only here at Point Pleasant, but on October 30th. Jack is entering the National High School Hall of Fame for wrestling. They do have tickets for sale for people to go that wants to attend the dinner and the introduction. They're taking 5 people from West Virginia into the National Hall of Fame in Rawson. Jack is one of them. So that's quite an honor. The first story I'm going to tell you about Jack Cullen, it's going to be quick, but first ball game we had one year, we got beat bad. And I won't tell the score, but this man and woman after the game, Jack and I was walking off the field, and they just called, said, you SOB, you SOB. And I turned to Jack and I said, are they talking to you? He said, no, I think they're talking to both of us. So we went on this year. We only had 16 kids. We went to Andrew Jackson. The next week we got beat 56-0. The bus forgot to pick us up after us. And that's the truth. Jack and I, after Bob and Harris took the kids home after the game, and Jack and I got stuck up there waiting for the bus. And they was going to sit, we're at 6:30. So Jack and I just laid underneath the tree there at Andrew Jackson, and there was McDonald's across the street. The only person we were stuck with left was Josh Jones. Now, just think about that. Left there was Josh Jones, who wasn't even a football player, but he skipped school to go with us. And luckily, Josh wanted to play football so bad. He didn't have the grades, but he wanted to be our manager after that day. So we survived that. And the last one I'm going to tell you people is that we were in poker. We had a real good team, but we were up on the sideline when the game started, and Jack and I usually talked loud so people could hear us or whatever. And at poker, this one referee come over on our sideline, stood there for a few minutes, made some crazy calls. So I got right up next to him and I could smell alcohol on him. And I turned to Coach Cullen and I said, "Have you been drinking?" And he said, "No, not me, Coach." So they called a penalty on us, 5-yard illegal procedure, where they take the football forward 5 yards, which they was wrong. They should have took it backwards. So their coach called his referee over. So he marched off 5 yards back to the original place. And then he goes and penalizes 8 yards more backwards. Jack looked at me and that guy was standing right there and he said, "Coach, he is drunk." So we had good times together, and we went to Buckhannon, won 6-2, but we was down 2-0 at halftime. And they came over and said, "Coach, it's bad weather. Do you want to cancel the game?" Jack said, "Who's behind?" Of course, we were 2-0. So second half, they let us go ahead and start. We got down the goal line, ran the same play 4 times. Half back pass. I called timeout on 3rd down. Come back out off the field, and Coach Cullen says to me, "Don't tell me you're going to run the same play again." I said, "You got it. That's all we know." So we completed the 4th down when it hit 6-2. It was a half-back pass from Brian Raymond to Matt Wedge. So Jack looks at the referee and he says, "Hey, you all want to call the game now?" But this guy is quite a man. He's a heck of a coach. He's a great friend, but more important, he's a heck of an educator. I am privileged to introduce Coach Jack Cullen.
Gene, we had some good times together, didn't we? And just like we used to coach together, you never paid attention to me. Oh, there it is. There's Doc. Okay. Well, we coached junior high football together at least 10 years. The first go around, we both stepped aside for a couple of years and come back, and we probably coached junior high football at least 12, 14 years ago. And then from there, we coached track, junior high track, at least 10 years together. And then I moved to the high school, coached the girls for 6 years, and now you were back with the boys for at least a couple. So we coached probably track together at least 12 years. So we had a lot of good times together. Maybe one thing he didn't say, maybe I wasn't the greatest baseball player in the world, but Gene, who led the league in hitting that year? Mom, who led the league in hitting that year? I think it was me. Okay. Yeah, maybe I couldn't feel so well, but at least I can hit the baseball, right? It's really a great privilege and honor to be selected into the Point Pleasant High School Big Blacks Hall of Fame. And really, if it wasn't for a group of about a half a dozen different groups of people, this wouldn't have been possible for me at any level, any stretch of imagination. It's great to have my parents here tonight. Thank you for all the love, support, and encouragement you've given me all my life. Thank you very much. My wife, Joanne. Joanne's, usually we talk about a wrestling coach, and you say, well, my wife was my assistant coach for at least 10 years officially, and probably another 20 years unofficially. She was kind of a reluctant coach at first. My first year teaching at Central Preston in Kingwood, I got the head wrestling coach job. And about this time of the year, the athletic director came to me and said, well, you need to come down and look at your equipment and see if you need to order any singlets or mat tape or athletic tape, mat cleaner, that type of thing, just the usual stuff. So they took me to the storage room at the gym, and I'm looking through the equipment, and they're hanging with the singlets is about 12 cheerleading uniforms, outfits. And I'm looking at that, and I said, well, what's these cheerleading uniforms here hanging with these singlets? He said, well, they're yours, coach, they're yours. I said, for what? He said, well, they're your cheerleaders. Cheerleaders? I mean, a first-year teacher, first-year coach, I think they're pulling one on me. You know what I mean? They're really trying to pull one on them. They're getting me. You know, I understand. After about 15, 20 minutes, you really realize that he was dead serious. He said, not only do you have your wrestling team, but you've got to have tryouts for these girls, and, you know, I don't know what kind of cheer. What do you say? Turn him over? You know, shoot two? I don't know what kind of cheer you get. I'm not a clue. You know? So I'm thinking, what the heck am I going to do with cheerleaders? They're not statisticians. They're not matinees. They're cheerleaders. So I go home that evening. He said, Joanne, I got a job for you. They said I could have someone help me with cheerleaders. So that's how I drafted her the first year, and she went with us all the wrestling matches, and just like an assistant coach. The next 2 years was at Morgantown High, and Joanne went with a lot of matches with me there also. And then come back to Point Pleasant High School. My first year here was 1983-84. And I had the pleasure of being the head coach here for 26 years. After that first season, my assistant coach resigned. I don't know something I said, I'm not sure what happened, but anyway, the job was posted, and no one's applying. And Joanne said, do you mind if I apply for the job? She said, I'm going to be there anyway, just we'll get paid for it. I said, you got my permission. And so, then the next year, she was my assistant coach, and I went to Bill Barker and said, Bill, I'd like to have a junior high program. You know, well, is there enough people there that you know, you can have a team? Because we only had, at that time, the junior high team was gone. We were a 10 through 12 high school, and when you get a sophomore in, it's never wrestled before. Some of you guys know about the experience. You know, if you don't have experience, you hope for something by the time they were a senior. You know, you can have a rare athlete come along as a sophomore and be pretty successful, but it didn't happen very often. And so I know without that junior high program, it hurt. And so the job was posted, and no one applied for it. So I said, well, I guess I'll apply for it. So I applied for it, and Joanne and I ran both teams for the next 4 years. I guess I found out about 10 years later that I wasn't supposed to do that. I had 2 jobs at the same time like that. But we would practice high school. And then after high school practice, we only had one mat at the time. After the high school practice, about 5:30, 6 o'clock to about 7:30, 8 o'clock, junior high would roll in. And we did that for 4 years like that. A lot of time, but it got us started. It If it wasn't for that junior high feeder program, you know, the high school team would have had some success, but not where we ended up at all. In about 1987, this person got out of college and come back to Point Pleasant, and I asked him to be my assistant coach. Flat out turned me down. Said, no, don't want to do it. Well, some things occurred that next year. I won't say Joanne was expecting a baby. Joanne was expecting a baby. In the summer of 1988, she resigned as my assistant coach. So I go back to this person again. I said, I'd really like to have you as my assistant coach. And he said yes. And for the next 20 years, the things we were able to do and the things we were able to accomplish at Point Pleasant High School and Point Pleasant Junior High were phenomenal. That's when David R. said, yes, I'll coach with you. In 1990, we were at the WSNC tournament, and we were having some success, not outstanding success, but with our junior high program and our high school program, we started to get some guys coming through with some experience. Matter think our 86 or 87 team, Joanne junior high team, was undefeated. Dual matches, not tournaments, but dual matches. And we were sitting there in the stands, and Davey said, I think we need a youth team. We need a youth league in Mason County. And we kicked the idea around a little bit, and we started the Mason County Youth League. Now, we had some growing pains initially. That's being polite. I don't want to say that sometimes people would show up for the fights instead of the wrestling match. We made a few mistakes along the way. I remember, I don't know, Coach, if you remember the match that I'm thinking of right now. I'm looking across, and here's this second grader, probably about a 75-pound second grader, wrestling a 6th grade red shirt. Is that being polite? He was a 6th grader, maybe 13, 14-year-old 6th grader, okay? And that little second grader picked that boy up and put him to the mat. And I said, Coach, you see an athletic move right there? He said, most definitely. I said, what the heck were we thinking of? So we actually dissolved that program for a couple years. When we brought it back the second time, better plan, better idea. And the number of wrestlers that program has produced for us, and I hate to say that Blue Devils across the river there at Gay Academy, has produced a lot of great wrestlers. So, Davey was very instrumental in what we were able to do in wrestling. We also started the Mason County Open that year, 1990. And that's been a very, very successful tournament. We even had one year, we had 6 mats down in the old gym, and had to put 1 mat over in the cafeteria. I think we had probably close to, 600-700 wrestlers in here. And just a phenomenal tournament. That tournament's still going on today. So just a great success there. And with Davey, we had a good idea of how to score tournaments. Matter of fact, I was even at some tournaments late, and the other coaches would know that I keep score. I had one coach in Greenboro West come over to me and said, in the middle of the Jackson County Invitational, said, Coach, what's my team score right now? I flipped to the back and said, there's my score. I said, thanks, Coach. Away he went. Did not go ask the head table what the score was. He come and asked me what the score was. So that's one thing Davey and I could do. We could keep score in a tournament, as long as it's a small tournament. WSSE was pretty tough. When you got 8 mats running at the same time, it's kind of hard to keep track of everybody and who's in what team, that type of thing. But in a tournament with 3 or 4 mats, pretty easy. And by knowing how you score match or how to score points in tournaments, there were a few times when we were in the SOEL that they would allow you to place your wrestler where you wanted them. I don't know what they were thinking, but I was pretty thankful, because I know when I walked out at the seed meeting a few times, Davey and I looked at each other, those guys had a clue what they just did. They just set us up. We would put our guys in position. Maybe they wouldn't win a match. They're going to score points. They could be in that 4th place position, buy out, lose, drop down, lose, or have a bye in the 3rd and 4th, not win a match, and still place 4th and get team points. And I know that one year over at River Valley, we won by half point. And just by us maneuvering our guys where they were, the other coaches didn't have a clue where we're at, what we're doing. So thank goodness Coach Darce helped me out with that. And, it was just, the other things, we were able to do there were just phenomenal. Appreciate it, Coach. We had a few other coaches who come along and help us out. In 1995, when they realized that I was not allowed to coach 2 sports at the same, or two teams at the same time, we gave up the junior high team, but him and I coached it together. And by rights with Davey, if anyone had any sense, they would have fired me a long time ago, because with him coaching the junior high team, in about 15 years, he won about 12 WSAZ titles, something like that. Yeah. Really, the biggest fault I'd say myself was recruiting. And not the type of recruiting that Coach Rollins always liked to do. I'm not talking about going and getting guys off other teams. I'm talking about recruiting kids right here in Point Pleasant, because we had several wrestlers in those early years, and even here at the end, that were phenomenal junior high wrestlers, maybe placed very high at WSAZ, but I couldn't get them to come across to the junior high team, from the junior high team to the high school team. And that kind of hurt us for a while to get that reputation where we could win, where we could go there. And if I could have kept that 93, 94 team, junior high team together, 94, 95 team in there, right in there, probably one of the best junior high teams that I ever saw, ever. I know I had, with David and I, just like with Joanne used and I, we used to split up, and one of us go to the high school match, and the other one go to the junior high match. And that weekend I had the junior high, to be honest, down in Beckman. And out of 15 weight classes, and this is a pretty big tournament, down there. Matter of fact, Park Junior High, Beckley Park Junior High, used to be the team that would traditionally win the WSAZ. Through the 80s, they were the top team, always down there. Well, we went down there and wrestled in that tournament, and out of 15 weight classes, we put 14 of 15 into the finals. We didn't win all of the final matches, but we scored something like 324 points. It was just phenomenal. In that group, I think the WSAZ probably set a record at that time. They scored something like 264, 267, something like that. Phenomenal team. I just couldn't keep them all together. You know, it's just one thing I wish I could have done is to keep all those guys together, because in 1998, that group would have been seniors. At least the ninth graders that year would have been seniors, 8th graders would have been seniors. And North Marion won the state tournament that year, AAA, with about 127 points, and we were 7th of 91. And if I could have kept those guys together, would have been right there. We had our first state champion that year in 1998, Alex Reed. And the only time he ever beat Chris Johnson was the only time it mattered. That was at the state finals. He lost matches to him 3-4 times during the year, but when it counted, he won that 3-2 match to become our first state champion. We almost put our first 3 wrestlers that year into the state finals. We put the first 2 in. We were about 10 seconds from the third one. We had Bo Hill was second that year at 119, and Bo lost the 4-3 match in the state finals. But Jeremy Burris was right there also. And Jeremy was actually up in a match. Took a bad shot, got hit for stalling. Not that I ever teach him how to stall or play the line a little bit, but he got hit about 10 seconds. He panicked, takes a bad shot, and gets stuck in the last 10 seconds. Comes back and places third. We also had Jeremy Rickard on that team, and Jeremy placed third in the state. And we had one other gentleman on that team that you mentioned, Coach, Josh Jones. Josh didn't come out until after Christmas. And the very first match that Josh wrestled was at New Lex. And he almost got tossed out of the tournament. He headbutted the other kid like he wouldn't believe. I think he thought it was WWF stuff. You know, he was looking for the ropes and the turnbuckle and the whole 9 yards. All right? But he walked out and didn't win a match. We go to the SOAL, and he wins by an injury default. The only match he wins. So he's got a losing record going into the regional tournament. And if any of you are here that night that he wrestled, we had a home regional tournament that night, and the crowd just went crazy because Josh pinned the number 4 seed, and in the finals he pinned the number 1 seed. And that place was just electric over there. So Josh goes to the state tournament with a losing record, and he wins his first match, and Coach and I scouts the next wrestler and say, hey, we got a chance here. He wins his second match, and here's a guy with a losing record, ends up 6th in the state. He's an all-state wrestler. So, if that could have kept that group together, quite possibly we could have been state champions right there. In 95, we had, when I was not allowed to coach 2 teams at the same time, we had Coach Cottrell, Phil Cottrell was a coach with us. We had Greek with us after that. And then, we were looking for another coach and couldn't find a junior high coach. And Davey said, well, I'll go back to the junior high. And then at least he had an assistant coach with Michael Flanders. And Joanne said, well, I'm free again. I can come back and coach. So Joanne came back with me and coached the last 6 years as my assistant coach with me. And Joanne, thank you for all the time that you've been with us. Appreciate it. Davey, thanks. Another group of guys that helped me out a good bit the last 7, 8, 9 years. One guy come aboard with his wrestler was a freshman. And went through 4 years with him. And then his next son come through, and 4 years with him, and then stuck around a couple more years with me. And anything I needed, anything I need help with, always could count on him, always there. So Tracy McCormick, thank you for all you did. And Yvonne come along, and we were really not in a great financial situation, and really took us out of a mess, and got us where we needed to be. And then the boosters. If it wasn't for our boosters and our parents, some of the things we did here just wouldn't have been possible. When you run 2 team tournaments back to back on the same weekend, and if you don't have workers, parents that want to volunteer and help, there's absolutely no way we can pull that thing off. And for us being in the SOAL, we picked up several different things we brought back to West Virginia. We brought back the team pool tournament, which wasn't a bad idea, except for one thing I didn't like. Because when you wrestle the other team, you're not wrestling somebody else, you're not getting any better, you get a forfeit. So we put the individual pool tournament in there, and at least we can fill in with the extras, so we get a few more matches. And the other thing we brought back to West Virginia from Ohio was the Medina board. And just to run that Medina board initially, Randy, you know what that thing was like, moving those numbers around and, all night long, moving them things around, was just pretty phenomenal what we were able to pull off here, running 6 mats and run that Medina board. And I remember Coach Gilson, Ed Gilson from Independence, standing in front of that board just looking up one day. And Coach Gilson probably retired about 5 years ago from Independent High School. And he's standing just looking. I walked over to him and said, Coach, you got a problem? You have a question? He said, no. I said, I've been coming to this tournament for 5 years, and I just now figured this thing out. That's pretty phenomenal. We ought to be doing this other places, So it just, that was just a great system we brought back to Mason County. So our boosters, our parents, if it wasn't for them, the amount of things that we were able to do here just wouldn't have been possible. And of course, the other thing is the athletes. And, as a coach, I'm not going in on my own athletic ability. I'm going in on hundreds of others' athletic ability. And so if we didn't have that coaching staff together, if we didn't have a system that worked that these guys would be successful with, none of this would have been possible. So to all them, to all of our parents, to all my assistant coaches, all the people I've coached with, I say thank you very much.
As far as I know, she only had one really true friend. And the next gentleman that I'm going to introduce was that woman's son. My mom and Kitty Marnhout were best of buddies for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure as long as Mike can remember. We grew up pretty much together because they were together a lot. Mike graduated the year before I did, so when we played football together, I was cannon fodder, and Mike was the guy that was knocking me down all the time. But I still remember that with fond memories. Not to belabor the point, but it's nice to have you back in town, Mike. Mike graduated in 1968, the 3-year letter winner in basketball. He scored 736 total points, scored over 200 points in 3 seasons on the track team, and was the first track athlete to ever score points in AAA state meet. Played baseball and golf one year, won 11 total letters. It's pretty phenomenal. Went on to play college football at UK and Cal Western. He was selected to the All-West Coast team in 1974. Set a school record for quarterback sacks in a season, 23, and sacks in a game, 5. After college, he signed as a free agent with the Houston Oilers in 1975. I'm proud to introduce to you Mike Marnhout.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and a lot of people, a lot of faces I see out here. Joe Smith back here, David Rawson, Coach, Rick Handley, Glenn Long, obviously, and it's great to be back home. Have a lot of great memories from Point Pleasant, from early age of playing football. First I remember with high tops playing Ordnance Field. And I was a rather large kid when I was young. And I didn't grow a whole lot bigger. Coach Schertzer wanted to hold me back in the 8th grade because he thought I was going to be a giant. So that didn't happen, but I remember playing in the sand and the Hornets and all that stuff at Ordnance, and some very fond memories. But, people always ask me, and I live in Kentucky. I was born in Lexington, Kentucky. And we moved here to Point Pleasant when I was in the 5th grade. But this is my home. People say, where are you from? I'm from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Excuse me. I look at this school today, and I saw Pam Smith-Simpkins, and Pam reminded reminded me, we were not the first class here. Pam was, her class was. But it was one little hallway, two little hallways, I believe, and we were the first class up here, but to see what it's turned into is incredible, absolutely incredible. But the memories that I carry from Point Pleasant, the friends I've made over the years, what it means to me, I can't tell you. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here again. It's nice to get that feeling you get on a Friday night at 7 o'clock. It's 30 minutes from kickoff, and I'm 6'2", and 280, and can whip the world. And that's how I feel tonight. And with this situation, I would like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for all the work they do. I'd like to thank Coach Stafford and Glenn Long for giving honor to the athletes that are putting their time and effort and into the community. And I left Point Pleasant 9 years ago, and I'm in Delaware, and the difference in programs and states is just unbelievable. In Delaware, the community support is not there. You don't have people that are rooting, for your team like we have here, and you really don't know how much you love something till you don't have it. And I'm here tonight to introduce my brother Mike. Brothers fight between each other, but if anybody messes with us, they have to whip us both. And it's such an honor and privilege for me to honor him with this induction tonight. Mike graduated in 1971. He played football, basketball, baseball. He was a sportsaholic. He won 8 letters. He attended Marshall University and Glenville State College. He played linebacker, football. He was a kicker. He punted. He kicked off extra points. He was also a field goal kicker. I think that he kicked one of the first field goals in the history of Point Pleasant High School in 1968 against Meigs. I think he, in baseball, his junior year, he had the top batting average, 348. In basketball, I think he was a lot like me. He was a great rebounder and a fouler, and I don't mean Jack. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my brother, Michael Rawson.
Seems like everybody tonight's kind of winging it off the cuff, but I've got some notes that I'd like to read from. I kind of work with that a little bit better. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for their support in selecting me for this great honor, and I'd like to thank my brother, Coach Rawson, for nominating me, and my parents, Bill and Donna Rawson, I should say my late father, and my mother, Donna Rawson, for their support for me and my brother. And they were always behind us 100% in everything we did. I remember when I was around 12 years old, during a hot summer, we had Little League ball practice scheduled, and for some reason, I can't remember why, but we didn't have a vehicle to get down to practice. Each team had their own equipment that we carried back and forth, and we had ours in an old Army duffel bag. And it was full of catcher's equipment, 8 to 10 baseballs, 8 to 10 baseball bats, and all probably weighed around 50 pounds. Dad said, let's go, and he put the equipment over his back, and shoulder, I should say, and away we went. It was approximately a 2-mile walk, and as they like to say, that was uphill both ways. To this day, isn't it funny how that equipment bag gets bigger and bigger as you think back on it. I would like to thank my wife Cindy, who through all the years of my stats keeping has always been supportive and helpful, and always on the Sunday afternoons or the Friday nights, whatever it was, she was always there to help me. My daughters Erica and Brooke, I remember both Erica and Brooke sitting across from the dining room table on a Sunday afternoon helping me crunch numbers for Coach Stafford or Coach Darst 6 o'clock meeting. Speaking of stats, I would like to give a few little stats on this year's Big Blacks. As we all know, we're having a banner year. Through 4 games, we've scored 236 points for a 59-point per game average, and the school record is 350 points scored during the 1956 season. Last year's team was close, scoring 340 points in 11 games. We've scored 34 touchdowns to date, and again, 1956 is the high water mark with 53 touchdowns. Hall of Fame member Pete McDermott in the 1968 season holds the record for passing with 956 yards. Eric Roberts through 4 games this year is at 514 yards. And on the kicking game, Josh Parsons this year has kicked through 27 out of 29 extra points. That record is held by Jared Long, last year kicking 42 out of 46, which is phenomenal. And this year Jared is also 4 for 4. Tyler Campbell is leading the team in rushing this year at 384 yards. And not far behind him is Anthony Darst with 304 yards. Another good stat to show a good football team from another one is the punting. Point this year has only punted the ball 6 times while forcing the opponents to punt 31 times. As you can tell, I like crunching numbers for the Big Blacks, and it's still early in the season with a long way to go. Let's hope the Big Blacks keep up their success for the 2011 season. This is my 32nd year as a statistician for the Big Blacks, and I took over for Jack Rogers back in the 1980 season upon his retirement. I don't know how Jack did it, mostly by himself. There's so many things to watch during the game, it's just almost impossible at times. And ever since I started, I have had very good help with me. In the first few years, Rick Simpkins, Clement Long, both here tonight, did a very good job. And however, their work schedules changed and they had to give it up. Somewhere in the late 80s, Jim Perdue, a co-worker of mine at Mason County Insurance, started helping me, and for the next 15 years, Jim was at every ball game. We always had a funny saying that we was hoping we would play Scott High School because that's where Jim was from, and now we get to play him and he doesn't get to help with the stats. But again, Jim's work schedule changed and he also had to quit, and I started looking for a replacement. And I ran into an old friend while walking the trail out at Credell Park. And it was the first time I'd seen him in about 20 years. And that person was none other than Wayne Sanders. Wayne kindly agreed to help, and has been a perfect fit ever since. Last year, Doug Workman came on board and has been a great addition to the team. And it's so nice to have good people involved in the program. As a player, in the late 60s and early 70s, I enjoyed playing football, basketball, and baseball for the Big Blacks. How could you ever forget an undefeated season such as we had in 1969? I remember us beating Huntington High 24-14 on Saturday afternoon at the old Fairfield Stadium, and it was our 4th win of the season. Coach Ware told us as we got, it was the 4th game of the season. That was also a special game for me because I played the whole game at fullback, and I helped block for Greg Clayton, a 96-yard run, which is still a school record. Coach Ware told us as we got on the bus to go home to get down in the seats. And it didn't take us long to see what was going on. The Huntington fans were so upset that we beat them that they got on the roofs of the apartments, and the viaduct with bricks and blocks was going to bombard us. And if you remember the old Coke bottles, the little ones are just so small, but they were like rocks. I mean, you couldn't break them. They were so tough. Someone threw one of those and broke out the back glass of the bus, and it sounded like a handgun going off. I also like playing baseball, and one of my fondest memories is pitching in front of the student body. We played Bahama when I was a senior at Harmon Park. School was let out, it was on a Friday afternoon, and everybody showed up to watch the game, which we won 6-4. but I'm sure it could have been a 6-0 shutout if I'd listened to Coach Wood yelling from the dugout, "Bend your back and follow through." It's memories like these and other thoughts throughout the years that have made me proud to be part of the Big Blacks program. And I want to thank everybody involved in such a great honor. Thank you.
I didn't know that when I came, but I said, well, we don't have a track. Well, we'll work that out. Well, these first two gentlemen over here were on that team as seniors, and I remember we started practice, we would work out on the football field. There was this one skinny little kid out there running around that looked to be pretty fast, and I didn't, I remember all of our meets were away, of course, and we went to, was it Chesapeake or someplace we went down there? Well, this skinny kid ends up running a 10-300, and that was, back then it was 100 yards and 220 and so on. And we had a pretty decent team. And all the time that I coached him in 3 years, he never lost a 220-yard dash, except his sophomore year, and he'll remember this too, but we're in the regional finals to qualify for the state meet, and he's 20 yards ahead and snapped the tape with his hands as he crossed. And I remember the coach from Ravenswood goes running down through there and hollers foul, and they DQ'd him. And so he didn't get to participate in that event at the state meet. Let me read you a short bio about Chris. He graduated from Point Pleasant High School in 1978. He was a 3-year letter winner in track. He was a multiple-time state champion in several different events. He was state champion in 220 both his junior and senior year. And he won the 400 a couple times too, and placed in several events. He has been since named one of the top 25 athletes in West Virginia track history by Run West Virginia. But let me tell you a little story behind the scenes that most of you probably don't know or don't remember. As a junior, he qualified in several events, and we went to the state track meet in Charleston. And in that meet, Chris scored 21 points, which was all of our team's points, and we ended up in 10th place in AAA. The next year, 1978, we had several athletes qualify for the state track meet that was going to be held in Huntington that year because Laidley Field was being renovated. The problem was the state track meet began on Friday evening, and it was also Point Pleasant High School's graduation. And so all those athletes had a decision to make. All but one decided to go through graduation. Chris decided he wanted to go to the state track meet, and I'm pretty glad he did. In that meet, Chris scored 34 points, and we, I think, ended up in 3rd place in AAA that year, and all because of his time. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Smith.
Like I say, this is an honor and a truth. Like I say, it's thank you.
I get to do one more introduction tonight. And on numerous levels, I've known Joe Smith for a long, long time. young man, actually younger than a young man. I got to watch Joe play a little ball. I'm not saying he's older than me, but he is older than I am. But I didn't know Joe then. I was 4 or 5 years his junior, so we weren't very close back then. But later on in life, after graduation from high school and during college and later, Joe and I wore the same uniform together for a lot of years. The Point Pleasant Athletic Hall of Fame is a big deal in my life. I spent a lot of time with Steve and the rest of the committee working on it, but it wasn't nearly as big a deal as that green uniform that Joe and I put on every day when we went to work together. It was an honor and a privilege to serve our nation with Joe in uniform, and it's really an honor tonight for me to introduce him as the next member of our Hall of Fame. Joe? He graduated in 1966. He was a 3-year letter winner in football, co-captain, most valuable player senior year. He was a 3-year starter on the basketball team and also co-captain, most valuable player. He was named honorable mention All-State his senior season as well. Multi-year letter winner in baseball, batted over 300 all 4 years. He was awarded a football scholarship to Glenville and played both his freshman and sophomore year. And in 1993, he started with the girls softball program here. And in 1998, Joe was a volunteer assistant coach with the state championship team. Joe?
I'd like to thank everybody for this wonderful acceptance here, and especially to the Hall of Fame Committee, I thank you. Some other people I would like to thank. I'd like to thank my daughter, my wife, for nominating me for this award. And I especially like to thank all the coaches that I had over the years. Coach Scherzer was really instrumental in all my athletics. I looked up to him for years and years. Coach Horton, basketball coach. In baseball, I played 4 years. I had 4 different coaches. And it was a real experience. From Jack Rogers for many years. Wrote all the fine articles on all the athletes and the ball games and stuff at Point Pleasant. They want you to say something about a memorable moment. Well, some of them, about the only one that I can really think of in basketball. We played Parkersburg that year in our sectional tournament. Well, Parkersburg, back when we was in school, was a dominant school. Logan, Williamson, all those. So, excuse me, some of them's double A now. Were big powerhouse triple A schools back then. And Parkersburg was a real big triple A school. Won a lot of state tournaments and stuff. And they had some really fine athletes. And they came down to our place our senior year. And they had beat us twice from the regular year by 40 points each time. And they came down there at home and we beat them in our sectional tournament, which is probably one of the biggest ball games that we ever won down there. We went on to the state and lost the next game to, I believe it was Weir. And then we was playing Ron Williams. He was playing then. Junior Ron Williams got to play against him and went on to play some professional ball, which was an outstanding athlete. As far as football, looked up, when I was growing up, Steve and them was a senior when Coach Safford and them was a senior when I was a freshman. And they had, I thought, a phenomenal ball team. And they had some real good athletes. Looked up to all of them boys. They were good. And when I was grade school and looking up at all the teams that Coach Scherzer had and the way that they played and the athletes that he had, and look at the athletes here on this stage, it's just quite an honor to be here and accept this tonight. And I want to thank all of my coaches down through the years for everything that they've done for me. I really appreciate it. In between my junior and senior year, I got asked to play on a fast-pitch softball team. TNT here, which anybody from around here knows was Bucky Bass at the time. And back then, you could go down to Harmon Park on the 4th of July, and it could be 100 degrees outside, and you couldn't find a place to sit or stand from people watching the ball game. And we had, back then, Coach Scherzer's rules were, that you had to be home at 9:30 every night, except Saturday night, you was allowed out to 12, and no tobacco. Well, I was playing with men, and one of them was Jamie Bowes, who is still here in town, who's quite an athlete. And he could hit a softball country mile and throw it to one. And Jamie liked to chew tobacco. And he told me one time down there, he said, Joe, he said, you hit the ball pretty good, but you could hit a lot further if you chew tobacco. Yeah, I was dumb enough track. So we're down there, and it's in everybody as crowd as can be, and somebody threw a ball over towards me, and I missed it, and it rolled over towards the fence. So I run over there and bent over and picked it up. When I stood up, guess who I was looking at? Coach Scherzer was looking at me eye to eye. He looked at me and he said, what'd you do, get a tooth pulled? Yeah, Coach. Turned around and walked away. And it was, coaches in times like that, it was probably one of the best experiences I ever had. It was truly a boy playing with men, and I learned a lot. And then when they started fast pitching for girls in high school, I loved it. It was right up my alley. And I got the chance to get involved with it. And got to watch my daughter go through it and help her. And we got the idea that we wanted to build a stadium for his girls. And it was truly a job, and I can understand and appreciate this building and the football stadium and everything out there, and I know personally what it took to do it. And the people involved in it really need your thanks, because they've done a fantastic job, as you can tell. And it's unbelievable the work and effort that it takes to get something like that done. I had a close friend pass away recently. Involved in helping us with girls' field, Fred Thurlow. And he helped get soccer started here, girls' softball. And he was one of the main people that helped me in Rick Roberts, and a lot of other parents that jumped in and helped us build that softball field out there. And I want to thank them today for that. And it was quite an experience. It's through all the coaches, all the experiences, and all the wonderful athletes that we got to work with. I really enjoyed. I probably learned more coaching those girls in softball and enjoyed it as much as any game that I ever played. And it was quite an experience, and I just thank them for that. And I thank all my coaches down through the years. They gave me the opportunity to play all the sports that I really love. Thank you.
went to sleep on it. It's not like he has anything on his mind this week.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm David Burris. I'm the head football coach here at Point Pleasant High School. And on a personal note, I definitely want to thank the stadium committee for an outstanding job again this year, picking the 10 people inducted this year. When I just sit back and just look at who's here tonight, some of my idols are here. Scott Burris. That was my goal. When I was in high school, I was going to beat Scott Burris' shot put record. That was my goal. And Chris Smith, everybody heard about Chris Smith. When we were growing up, I was at that right age where Chris Smith was the guy, and one of my best friends in the whole world up here tonight, Jack Cullen, Mike Rawson, he's Mr. Everything for us when it comes to Point Pleasant football and stats and doing everything. And this guy here, he kind of got me involved in coaching way back. He was got me going there a little bit with football. Kind of helped out a little bit. So, I'm really impressed and with who we put up this year, and I'm really proud of what we've done here at Point Pleasant. Being a third generation Big Black, and my son getting ready to graduate to be a fourth generation, I love Point Pleasant. I just love this place, and if we can do anything like this to honor our athletes, it's just a plus for us in our community. And again, congratulations, everybody. Congratulations. Back on Jack real quick. Me and Jack go a long ways back, but he's the brains of the operation, so don't let him fool you. I was just the grunt. I learned so much about wrestling. The first year I said no because I wrestled, but I wasn't a very good wrestler. And Jack knows more wrestling than I'll ever know. So that was intimidating for me. But once I got in there and got my feet wet and figured out what was going on, we had some great times. And so, I'm going to be tickled he's going to be into the National Hall of Fame, and I'm going to go to the ceremony, and it's going to be something special. But moving on, I've got probably one of the biggest honors tonight, introducing this next person. We're going to introduce our first Women's Hall of Fame member into Point Pleasant High School Hall of Fame. And what a fitting person. Just tell you a little bit about her and my connection to her. I just gotten out of college, do a little shot put once in a while in college, and come back and Coach Stafford and Coach Rollins were the track coaches, and they didn't really want to mess with them throwers too much, so they called me into taking throwers. And I thought, yeah, it'd be fun, I'll do that. Well, I hadn't coached anything yet. This was my first sport to coach. It just come right out. I graduated in the fall, did my student teaching in the fall, so my first coaching experience was as a track coach here at Point Pleasant. And did I step into a great situation? Well, I sure did. Because I was blessed with Kellie Thomas, Bill Cottrell, Rob Gerald, Jamie Higginbottom. We had Kelly Schultz. We had a group of track athletes that were throwers that just loved it. They just loved to throw. And we would spend hours throwing. We would just go out and we'd throw. Coach Stafford and maybe done track practice at 5 o'clock, we'd be there till 7. And we just throw. And we had fun. We try to have games. We do all kind of crazy games. Me and Kelly would take one of the boys, and I was still young enough to throw shot put, so I'd throw, and we'd measure mine and hers together against the boys. We used to have all kind of competition, and it was just a wonderful time for me. I was 21 years old. I graduated and was out the door at 21, and I was not very much older than them, and so I was a kid still at the time, and these kids just responded so well, and out of that group,
You know, I know Bill was an all-state track athlete. We'll talk about Kellie a little bit more and what she did. You know, Rob Gerald was a great track athlete. I think he was an all-state track athlete too. And, you know, it was just a good time to be around those kids. Just to tell you a couple of stories about Kellie. Number one, I'd never been around girls, coaching girls. You know, I ended up coaching softball like Joe a little bit and fell in love with softball, but I hadn't really coached girls. So I coached her like boys, you know. Well, she responded like them too, because I'm telling you what, she loved it. She would come out to work, and there were days she'd just outwork everybody. She had a desire to be the best. And it's a quality that you don't find very often, but when you find it, you don't quit with them. You work, and boy did she. And you know, we ended up, her sophomore year, she had a great year. And she ended up second in the state her sophomore year. And I took her to Evansville, Indiana, and she ended up being an All-American her sophomore year. She would have been the Pac-8 champion that year. She won the meet. So you'll understand, you know, my connections, you know, Cal Cliffs, Ripley, you know, they're people, you know, I tend to like to keep things in my mind for a while, but we go to the Pac-8 meet in Ripley, and they are looking for someone to run the shot put and the discus and all that. And I had all these throwers. I'm like, well, I really can't do that. You know, I'm working with these kids. Well, I had a tendency once in a while to maybe work with them a little bit while they threw. And back in those days, they kind of frowned on us walking over there and saying, well, you know, maybe you need to get your elbow up a little bit more, maybe you need to drop in the bucket or do whatever. So anyway, I got called on. You remember this, don't you? And she got disqualified from the meet because of me. So Kellie is not the Pac-8 champion her sophomore year because I may have coached her a little bit too much during the meet that year. So I apologize to you tonight. I don't know if you know that story or not, but that happened. But you know, she really had a great career here at Point Pleasant. She was a two-time state champion. Is still our school record holder. And her school record throw still ranks as one of the top 20 throws ever in the history of high school track in West Virginia. You know, she is an educator. I think she's still involved in athletic training. And, you know, so, you know, it is my honor to introduce to you all our first woman inductee into Point Pleasant High School Athletic Hall of Fame, Kellie Thomas.
It's going to be short, I promise. I'd like to thank everybody who nominated me. First of all, I want to thank God for giving me the ability to do that, to be able to throw shot put, because goodness knows I wasn't built to run. So that's why we threw practice, Coach Stars, because we couldn't run. So, I want to thank my family and friends for supporting me and the encouragement they've given me. I got family and friends up here in the back throughout my life. A special recognition to my mother who is sitting in the back and to my dad who couldn't be with us today. For their strong dedication to my talents and always being there for me throughout my schooling, athletics, and career. I I did win the state title when I was a senior, but this is one of the highest achievements I've ever accomplished. Thank you.
This is really nice too. I'd like to thank whoever set the pictures up out front with everybody that's inducted tonight. It's the first time I've ever seen my dad with a full head of hair. A little bit about my dad. It's great to be up here and doing this for him. I'm really glad to be able to do it. All I've heard was stories about this awesome curveball that he threw in high school, and he stood to me a few times in the front yard, and I couldn't catch it, let alone the people trying to hit it. But to be All-State 3 years and only playing 3 years of varsity sports is pretty cool. And his record, and strikeouts, and the things he's done on the field is just amazing to me. The stories and the articles I've read about him, but it really has nothing to do with the type of person he is and the guy who he is.
I would like to thank the committee and the people who nominated my father for this honor. And this is a Sports Hall of Fame induction, but I'll tell you, it does require excellence to be part of it. And his excellence also carried through as from, playing sports and being a baseball player and a football player here, and being a father as well. He raised 3 very different boys, and like I say, he did a pretty good job with all 3 of us. We've had our ups and downs, I'm sure, but we're here today, so we're doing good so far. It is an honor for our family, and he brought us up playing different sports and making sure that whatever we tried, that we did our very best at, and taught us to battle adversity, see things through, and be proud of the job that you've done. And I tell you, we're very proud of him as well, and not just because of his athletic career, but for the father that he's been to us. I'd like to introduce my father, Randy Warner.
Have fun, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight, and I really do appreciate this honor. There is probably at least 1 million people to thank for this. Of course, I have to begin with my dad and mom, who were always very supportive of any decision I ever made, whether it involved sports, schooling, where to go to school when college came about. I can remember my dad, he was a laborer. He worked very hard at Kaiser Aluminum, spent those long, hot days in the pot rooms, and many times he would come home to find a dirty-faced little boy sitting on the back porch with 2 ball gloves and a baseball. And we'd walk up into the backyard and we'd throw until Mom came to the door and said, "Supper's ready. It's time to come in." Mom made many sacrifices, and many times she would take my dad to work. She wouldn't allow me to hitchhike, so she'd take my dad to work, so she would have the car, the only car we had, to provide transportation for me back home, and then at the end of Dad's shift, go back to Ravenswood and pick him up. I have to thank my brother Steve, who spent countless hours in that backyard with me, digging curveballs out of the dirt, taking them off the chest, the knees, the face, running back over the hill to find a ball that I had thrown away, which happened 1 million times. And I need to thank all of the coaches who have had such a great effect on my life. And I'll begin with my first high school baseball coach, which was Mr. Jim Carpenter. Many of you teachers here will probably remember Jim Carpenter when he had the baseball program here. Next was Larry Rhodes, who took over the head baseball job when Jim left on to other ventures. And most definitely Coach Russ Wood. A very big inspiration to me. Other coaches who were involved in not so much my baseball days, but the football portion of my career was Donnie Van Meter, Mr. Lenny Barnett, Howard Lee Miller, and Jimmy Joe Wedge. And no one will ever forget the immortal Coach Dick Ware. I also have to thank a former educator, a mentor, a former coach here at Point Pleasant High School, who was very instrumental in changing the way I carried myself on a baseball field, and that was Mr. Jack Rogers. The Mason County Little Men's League. So many volunteers there through the years have helped young men become the best they can be as baseball players. Of course, my brother Steve, I've mentioned. Some of these names others are going to remember. Mr. Ransel Jivden, Bomber Jivden, Ralph Miller, John Leary, who was my first Little League coach here in Point Pleasant. Pitching records are really a better indicator of a total team effort than the efforts of any one individual. I was so fortunate through the years to have been surrounded by some of the finest baseball players in the history of Point Pleasant High School. There are too many to name, so I'll just move on. In the spring of 1972, we opened our season against Coach David Rawson's Ripley Vikings. That year, we also made the first appearance in the high school state baseball tournament in the history of Point Pleasant High School. And that was during a day and age when all high schools in the state competed for one title. And during that season, when the sectional tournament rolled around, we defeated Buffalo, Wahama, and Poca in the sectional tournament. And we entered the Region 8 tournament, which, by the way, Coach Ware negotiated to have moved to Ona, which is now the current site of Capital Midland High School, because he refused to play Huntington High in Huntington. So that tournament was moved to Ona, the Ona location, and on a Tuesday afternoon, we beat Chapmansville 3-2 in our first regional tournament game. And we came back 2 days later and defeated a very talented Huntington High Pony Express team 8-5. And that sent us to Parkersburg and our first appearance in the state high school baseball tournament. Now I'd like to show you a couple of things. Can anyone remember these? Well, do you remember in the 1970s, the Cincinnati Reds, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the St. Louis Cardinals uniforms? When you make your first high school appearance in jerseys that are 15 years old, the very next year, we're styling. These were the brand new double knits of the 1970s. Great uniform. But you got to, and no, it does not fit. We had a lot of baseball talent here, not just at Point Pleasant in the 1970s, but countywide. We had what I believe two of the finest high school baseball programs in the state right here in Mason County. Here at PPHS and just up the road at a place called Marnhout High School that was headed up by Coach Grant Barnett. It was a fierce rivalry that that we had between the two schools. It was played usually in front of the student bodies, as was mentioned earlier, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When we played at Wahama, they let their kids out to go to the ball game. Same was true here. Everybody was at Harmon Park during the baseball game. And, you know, that atmosphere just added fuel to the fire. And, but one thing that I learned through all of that is that fierce competitors can also become friends off the field and maybe teammates in future endeavors. One of those rivals that I had from Wahama High School was a young man by the name of Mike Lewis. Mike was a tremendous athlete, 3-sport star at Wahama. He was Mr. Everything at Wahama. And he led the WVIAC in hitting as a freshman at West Virginia State and was well on his way to becoming a star, both at the collegiate level and beyond. Mike and I were involved in an automobile accident just before our sophomore year at West Virginia State, and Mike was paralyzed. Utilizing the best technology of the day and the therapeutic treatments, Mike returned to school, completed his education in a wheelchair, graduated, received his degree, and not long thereafter, a second automobile accident took his life. He was just recently and so rightfully inducted into the Wahama High School Hall of Fame. You know, God has blessed me in so many ways, but none more than when he let Liddy Kay walk into my life. For 32 years she's been there, beside me, many times leading me through the good times, the bad times, the high points, the low points. She's the #1 fan of Joey, Matt, and Brandon. And of course, as we know, they're all former graduates and athletes here at Point Pleasant. These boys are the lights of my life. I'm proud of their accomplishments and where they are on the road of life today. In closing, I'd like to express my gratitude to the selection committee and my congratulations to my fellow inductees. It's a great honor, and thank you very much.